You've seen the headlines, you've heard the names, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. These drugs have, well, they've completely exploded into our culture. They're promising a revolution in how we treat obesity and a whole bunch of other chronic diseases. But, and there's a big but, behind all the miracle drug talk, there's a much more complicated story. A story about access, risk, and some really tough ethical questions. So, let's get into it.
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at just how massive this whole phenomenon is. Then, we'll dive into the science, how these drugs actually work. After that, we'll explore the incredible benefits beyond just weight loss. Then we're going to pivot to the tough stuff, the sky-high cost, the medical risks and ethical debates swirling around them. And finally, we'll take a look at what the future might hold.
I mean, the buzz around these things is just inescapable, right? These anti-obesity medications have become this massive global conversation. It's honestly one of the biggest medical stories of our time.
And to put a number on that buzz, get this. An estimated 6% of Americans are already taking one of these drugs. That is a staggering number for a class of medication that's still pretty new. It just shows you how fast this has all happened.
And that speed? It's only accelerating. The number of prescriptions has been nearly doubling every single year since 2019. This isn't a slow burn, folks. This is a full-on explosion.
So, the big question is, how? How do these injections pull off such dramatic results? Well, it all comes down to tricking your body by mimicking one of its own powerful hormones. Let's dig into the science of what makes us feel full.
Okay, so the official name is GLP-1 receptor agonist. I know, that's a mouthful, it sounds super complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. Think of these drugs as hormone impersonators. They're designed to perfectly copy the effects of a natural hormone called GLP-1, which your gut releases right after you eat.
And what's really cool is how it works on 3 different levels at once. First, like we said, the drug mimics that "hey, I just ate" hormone. Second, that signal shoots up to your brain and basically flips a switch that says, you know what, I'm full, we're good, stop eating. And third, it actually slows down how quickly your stomach empties. That means food physically stays in your stomach longer, so you feel full for a lot longer. It's this powerful 1-2-3 punch that can totally change a person's relationship with hunger.
But here's where the story gets really wild. It doesn't stop at weight loss. Not even close. The reason some people are calling these drugs a true miracle is because of this incredible and still growing list of other major health benefits.
You know, companies like Novo Nordisk, who make Ozempic and Wegovy, they actually developed these drugs for diabetes originally. But along the way, they stumbled onto something that could tackle a whole web of serious, interconnected diseases.
And that list of benefits just keeps getting longer. I mean, look at this. They're already FDA approved for managing blood sugar and type 2 diabetes, and to slash the risk of heart attack and stroke. Just recently, the FDA gave another green light for reducing the progression of kidney disease. And now, researchers are looking into them for everything from Alzheimer's and sleep apnea to even treating addiction. It's kind of mind-blowing.
And we're not talking about small minor effects here. In a huge clinical trial, patients with both type 2 diabetes and chronic kidney disease saw a 24% lower risk of their kidney disease getting worse or having a major cardiovascular event. I mean, 24%. That is a massive, life-saving impact.
Okay, so we've talked about the miracle. Now it's time to talk about the mess. Because for all their incredible potential, these drugs are unbelievably expensive. And that creates a huge barrier, raising some really serious questions about who gets left behind.
Dr. Robert Klitzman, over at Columbia University, really hits the nail on the head here. The high cost, plus the fact that you might need to be on these drugs for life, that's a huge financial challenge. And it leads to a critical question. Could these drugs actually end up making health inequality even worse?
And if you want to see that problem in black and white, look no further than insurance coverage. This is just wild. If you need this drug for diabetes, sold as Ozempic, 82% of ACA marketplace plans will cover it. Makes sense. But if you need the exact same active ingredient for weight loss, sold as Wegovy, suddenly only 1% of those same plans will cover it. It's a 2-tiered system where your access depends not on the medicine itself, but on your diagnosis.
So, beyond the price tag, the huge popularity of these drugs has kicked off this really heated debate about their potential risks and the bigger ethical questions they're forcing us to confront as a society.
Let's just tackle the biggest fear head-on, the thyroid cancer concern. This has been a huge talking point. It's even on the FDA's warning labels. So where did this fear actually come from?
Well, it all started with studies on rats and mice. When they were given really high doses of these drugs, they did develop a specific type of thyroid tumor. But, and this is a big but, researchers quickly pointed out that the receptors these drugs target are way more active in rodent thyroids than they are in ours, which made them wonder if the results would even apply to people.
And it looks like they don't. A recent, absolutely massive study looked at data from over 460,000 times human patients. They compared people on GLP-1 drugs to people on other diabetes meds, and the conclusion was clear. They found no statistically significant increased risk of thyroid tumors. That is a really crucial piece of the safety puzzle.
But that doesn't mean they're totally risk-free. Medically speaking, the most common side effects are things like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. More seriously, though, there are documented risks of pancreatitis, gallbladder problems, and kidney issues for some people. And then you have the whole other side of the debate, the ethical one. Bioethicists are asking, are we just medicalizing obesity? Is our intense focus on a magic shot distracting us from the harder but vital public health work of improving nutrition and promoting healthy lifestyles for everyone?
With such huge demand and these insane price tags, it's really no surprise this has become a major political issue. The debate we're seeing in the US is basically a preview of conversations happening all over the world as governments try to figure out what to do with these game-changing but very expensive new drugs.
And what's really fascinating is you're starting to see some agreement across the political aisle. The Trump campaign announced a plan that would have Medicare start covering drugs like Wegovy for obesity, with a goal of a $50 monthly copay. And that came after the Biden administration had also been pushing for both Medicare and Medicaid to fully cover them. The big takeaway here is that making these drugs affordable has become a bipartisan priority.
And you hear this specific phrase a lot from policymakers: democratize access. That's the stated goal from all sides, to take these drugs from being a luxury item for the wealthy and turn them into a widely available tool for public health.
And that really brings us to the final critical question that hangs over all of this. What we have here is a technology that is both a miracle and a mess. It has the potential to start a healthcare revolution and save millions of lives. But right now, its cost threatens to create an even bigger gap between the health of the rich and the poor. And how we answer this question is going to shape our healthcare system for decades.